on tonight's show. IBBM launches the Chiefly MBA locally.
The Chiefly MBA program is unique because it's the first time a top 20 MBA program has come to PNG.
And an in-depth report on personal income tax.
I feel that I am being robbed by the PNG government every fortnight continuously.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to another episode of Business PNG. Quality postgraduate programs are quite hard to find in the country, with the increasing demand by Papua New Guineans for further education beyond the first degree level. Many often resort to studying in institutions abroad. This can be an expensive process, as travel fares, international student tuition, and living expenses are quite hefty. This demand has led to the introduction of the Chiefly Masters in Business Administration here in Papua New Guinea. The MBA is a flexible, internationally recognized program provided by Australian Chiefly Business School in partnership with the Institute of Banking and Business Management, PNG. As of early 2014, Papua New Guineans can obtain an internationally recognized Masters of Business Administration without even leaving the country. The MBA program is a joint venture between the IBBM and the Melbourne-based Chiefly Business School, a fully accredited Australian institution for higher learning endorsed by the Tertiary Education and Quality Standards Agency. The Chiefly Business School, considered one of the top 20 MBA program providers, is a business school which delivers fully accredited online MBA and postgraduate programs, an enhanced learning experience tailored to meeting the business and management education needs of working professionals.
The Chiefly MBA program is unique because it's the first time a top 20 MBA program has come to PNG. And it's a unique program because it is a truly global MBA program. We're in a number of countries around the world. We're in the UAE, we're in India, New Zealand, and now we're in Papua New Guinea, and it's an exciting thing for us to bring a high-quality MBA program to this region.
The Chiefly Flexible MBA will offer students a balance of theory and practice, structured to allow students to build upon studied business concepts and practices. Enrollments are currently open and the program will begin in early 2014. The course consists of face-to-face workshops at IBBM, practicals as well as an online component carried out over a period of 6 weeks, enabling students to graduate within 18 months.
We're doing it in partnership in the sense that the program would be delivered in parts. So the workshops, online workshops, face-to-face interactions will be delivered by IBBM faculty, which will be chiefly adjunct. And the remaining lessons would be taken online, which IBBM will help the students to take by providing them internet access, downloads, etc. Also, they can take assignments from IBBM and then come and deliver it back. And also at the time of examination, we will give them a call and remind them that your assignment is due, your examination is due. So we will convert an online material into more of a flexible MBA, where IBBM will give them the face-to-face interaction, workshop approach, and also the community, learning from your peers, learning from the same group who's doing the course. That function we will provide at IBBM, but otherwise the degree and everything will be completely Australian. The material, workshops, presentations are completely Australian.
Recognized as an educational leader in training and preparing Papua New Guinea's business community, the Institute of Banking and Business Management will offer a unique learning experience and much-needed flexibility for business professionals who need to balance work, family, and study.
I think they'll be extremely receptive to a quality postgraduate qualification. This country is in the right time and the right place now for higher education, and postgraduate education is such a vital part in developing people's professional lives. It is a tool of trade, and I see that an MBA program is something that will bring strong governance and senior management and leadership to this country, and it's a vitally important tool of trade in the emerging economies.
As the MBA is recognized in Australia, graduates may be eligible for immigration points, which could assist with Australian permanent residency applications.
It gives an opportunity for doing a degree which is recognized outside of Papua New Guinea as well. This MBA also gives points for immigration as it is TEQSA certified, so if somebody is looking for that. And as well, this is something which was most needed, which was an Australian degree. While being in the country, you can continue to work, you can continue to keep your job, you can continue to live in the same house and still get an international qualification. So that's the most important thing.
The Chiefly MBA is launched in the country at an appropriate time when quality postgraduate programs are of utmost importance for developing business professionals. The availability of an internationally recognized MBA in the country will help boost the development of Papua New Guinea's future business leaders. After the break, we take a look at a subject that affects us all, taxes. Stay with us. Welcome back. There have been regular concerns raised by taxpayers regarding PNG's tax regime over the past years. A tax is a financial charge or levy imposed upon an individual or legal entity by a state or the functional equivalent of a state, such so that failure to pay is punishable by law. Different types of taxes are imposed on individuals and businesses in Papua New Guinea. With the government currently carrying out a tax review, taxpayers hope that the review will enable a better tax environment for all. Dennis Herrera brings you this report.
Some people say there are two things in life that we cannot escape. One is death, and the other is taxes. Yes, tax. Tax is vital for every country. We get taxed on almost everything. As we earn money every fortnight, we pay tax in the form of pay-as-you-earn tax. When we purchase goods at the supermarket, we pay GST tax. When we buy fuel at the service station, we pay some sort of tax. When we purchase an airline ticket, we pay some form of surcharge. Concerns have been raised recently regarding Air New Guinea's airfares, surcharges and taxes. General Manager Commercial for Air New Guinea, Dominic Kaumu, responded to these concerns during a tourism expo held recently.
This is an issue that we struggle with in this country, is the fact that we carry a lot of taxes. If I was to actually put it up on the board, it will demonstrate exactly what component of the total cost ends up with the airline, what component is actually given to every single. We've actually on our, sorry I'm breaking on a bit, but actually on our tickets, we ran out of space of collecting taxes because we've become tax collectors for the government. Simple as that. We carry every tax that the authorities think they can collect, give it to Air New Guinea. Air New Guinea collects it for us, we pay them, but the end result is that we are now being seen as being very costly.
According to the Internal Revenue Commission website, all residents, including individuals and companies, are liable to income tax in Papua New Guinea on their worldwide income. Non-residents are liable to pay income tax on their PNG income. Residence is determined with reference to domicile, place of fixed abode, and length of time in Papua New Guinea. The Internal Revenue Commission is responsible for the collection of most of PNG's tax revenue, in accordance with tax policies and laws set by the government, particularly through the Department of Treasury. The government then uses this revenue from tax to deliver services to Papua New Guineans. Papua New Guinea individual income tax rates are progressive up to 42%. Income tax is payable on assessable income less allowable deductions. Employment-related earnings are subject to tax deductions at source. Self-employed individuals and those with non-salary or wage income are required to pay provisional tax based on the previous year's tax liability. There have been concerns raised by taxpayers that with the cost of living being very high in urban areas, Paying tax just adds on to their burdens. Some concerns were also raised on not benefiting enough from the government for what they are being taxed off. Business PNG recently caught up with Francis Caboro, who works in Port Moresby and is taxed about 30% of his salary every fortnight. He shared his thoughts on tax.
Though I'm happy to pay tax because it means in a service delivery, it means public servants to be paid, and we just have to work something good out, for our win-win situation for the citizens who are paying tax to the government.
I feel that I am being robbed by the PNG government every fortnight continuously. I'm saying this because if my money was going to be used for something good, of benefit to everyone, I would really love to see the government upgrading our standard of living.
Executive Director for the Institute of National Affairs, Paul Barker, commented on the issue during an interview recently.
Balancing the books is going to be important. Expenditure restraint is going to be important. It was a large deficit budget this year. The deficit is probably going to end up larger, and so they have to look at ways of pruning and not just looking at ways of gaining extra revenue. But they certainly will be in a weak situation to be softening taxation. But hopefully they won't be trying to add taxation to the burden that would burden both business and household.
A tax review by the government is currently underway, and taxpayers hope that there will be changes that will go in their favor, particularly sole breadwinners. Any rise in prices of food in the stores, fuel at service stations and other necessities for people makes it difficult for taxpayers and their families. There are questions on what the tax review will be addressing, and recommendations have been made by some companies for possible tax reforms. David Karadas of PricewaterhouseCoopers expressed the organization's recommendations for tax reform in PNG.
I think along with everybody else, we'd like to see personal income tax rates reduced, or at least the rate bands increased, so that people have more money in their pockets for consumption, as the price of goods is probably going up at the moment. In terms of the overall tax reform process, one of the issues that the Internal Revenue Commission has is lack of resources and some lack of capacity. So I think one of the areas that Treasury and the government and the tax reform process should be looking at is, before we add new changes to the law and make it complex, look at what parts of the administration of the current law we can simplify so that the Internal Revenue Commission's job is easier.
Annie Gangloff of Gangloff Consulting also spoke on the issue.
At the moment, the government have engaged a team of eminent persons to review the tax situation. The terms of reference hasn't been made public yet, so we're not quite sure how far and wide the tax reforms will go. But one thing for certain is that the situation in Papua New Guinea is fairly unique, in that there's only about 15% of the population actually in employment. So essentially, that 15% of people are the ones contributing towards government revenue. At the moment, the total salary and wages tax is about 30% of the total revenue of the government. In terms of reform, it's what the government needs is the revenue that it earns. That's what funds the various programs it has. So from the government's point of view, it's how can they recover as much as they can from the formal taxation area. The situation with Papua New Guinea is only 15% of that is actually generated from the people working. The challenge for the government is to try and how you broaden that tax base. We have the GST, which everybody pays. When you buy something from the shops, you pay 10%. So for most Papua New Guineans, all they pay in taxation is the 10% GST. The challenge for the government is, how do we reduce the burden on those workers? And once again, that will then encourage more people to seek employment, but at the same time compensate for that reduction in tax by broadening the tax base.
I'm happy with what the government is doing at the moment. They're taking some radical changes. I mean, the government of the day, Peter O'Neill and the members are doing well. They're doing some radical decisions, which is good, and that kind of gives me satisfaction to know that my money is well managed and is coming back. And again, as per our constitution, we're a Christian country, and I feel that this is, excuse me, but I think there's a scripture in the Bible, especially in Matthew, where Jesus was asked whether he should pay taxes or not, and Jesus simply said, "Give what's right to God and give Caesar what rightfully belongs to Caesar." So, we have to, give it back to the government, give what's rightfully to God, which are tithes and offerings.
Business PNG caught up with newly appointed Secretary for Treasury, Dai Rivele, last week, in which he commented on the tax review going on.
Like all reviews, all they're doing is just checking up on where things are. I think the last review was done, I believe, 19 years ago or 15 years ago, and so it's timely. We've got a different set of circumstances now, obviously, with the PNG LNG project. It's a transformation for us, and it's a transformation in terms of the state and the size of government, and therefore I think it's an opportune time for us to look at the taxes. I think the IMF and the World Bank have also done some reviews over time, and that's why we've got an imminent group of Papua New Guineans, led by Senator Bogan, who's a very experienced operator. Of course, he ran the IRC for many years. They're looking at what's working, they're looking at what's not working, and as always, what's efficient, and therefore where can we grab some more. And where I think some of the structures that we have were for a different time and a different place. So as we move on, again, try to keep up with trends in terms of taxation.
Stay tuned. When we return, we look further into personal income tax and superannuation in the country. Welcome back. Together with personal income tax, there have also been concerns raised regarding superannuation in Papua New Guinea. Taxpayers are said to be double taxed because they pay tax while they are working and get taxed again on their final payouts when they retire. Taxpayers once again hope that the tax review currently going on will consider this very challenging scenario they are faced with.
According to the Trading Economics website, the personal income tax rate in Papua New Guinea is 42% for this year. The website reveals that Papua New Guinea personal income tax rate averaged 43.3% from 2004 to 2013, reaching an all-time high of 47% in January of 2005 and a record low of 42% in January of 2007. According to www.taxrates.cc, workers who earn between 7,000 kina and 18,000 kina per annum pay 22% tax. Those who earn between 18,000 kina and 33,000 kina per annum pay 30% tax. Employees earning between 33,000 kina and 70,000 kina per annum pay 35% tax. Those in the category of earning between 70,000 kina and 250,000 kina per annum pay 40% tax, whereas those earning 250,000 kina and above per annum pay 42% tax. In line with personal income tax, there is also concern on superannuation savings when employees retire. There are concerns raised by the private sector on superannuation law and company tax law, where self-employed persons and partners in professional firms can have full access to superannuation savings.
To superannuation, I think we'd like to see some expansion of the way the superannuation works. Under the current law, there's a cap on the amount which can be paid in, and which is a tax deduction to the employer of 15% of the employee's tax salary. Obviously, as people head towards retirement, they may be in a position where they could actually save more in superannuation, and would perhaps want to put more than 15% of their tax salary into super to provide for their life after working. But at the moment that's not possible, so we have suggested some consideration of some age-based limits so that as you get older you can put some slightly more into that superannuation fund. For people who are not employees, so people who work in professional firms such as our own or in law firms who are not employees, there is no way in which they can get a deduction for saving for superannuation. So we've also been lobbying over the last few years for changes to the laws to enable self-employed people and partners in partnership to claim deductions for superannuation contributions.
Superannuation is an important part of our, I suppose, life on this earth. You know, when you're working, you get regular wages. When you retire, there's no more regular income. That money that you're setting aside every fortnight and what you put in plus what your employer puts in, that becomes your superannuation, which you collect on retirement. There's discussions at the moment about how that's taxed. At the moment, your contribution that goes in, when you get it out, it's tax-free, there's no more tax on it. What is being taxed is the profits that you earned from the interest on your money. That has not been taxed, so when you retire, that's taxed. But the tax rates differ depending on how long you've been with the super fund. You know, once you're basically there for 15 years, you only pay 2% on that portion. Your portion that you put in, and that's tax-free, that goes in. So you don't get double tax on that. But there's issues about people who work in employers who have less than 15 employees. They're not required to be part of the super scheme. Once again, self-employed people are not catered for under the normal superannuation laws. NAS Fund has what they call EDA Super, which is structured for self-employed people and for people who work in organizations that don't contribute to superannuation. They can, through their own volition, agree to set up an account with EDA Super. It's governed under the same superannuation laws, so all the rules of the normal superannuation apply to EDA Super. But it's a self-funding program.
It's certainly, Papua New Guinea has not been a very good saving society. People have often consumed, and when they have money, they spend it, or their relatives come along and borrow it and take it off them. Sometimes that can be a form of saving, in that they may get something back later on, but by and large it's not been the case. There haven't been many opportunities to save because, you know, not many people have had bank accounts in this country, and only recently have these microfinance facilities started to be rolled out, so people are able to save through these mechanisms. But people can live a lot longer than their employment period, for example, if they're in the informal sector, and they need to be able to plan for their retirement. And certainly superannuation is not just something that should be there for people working in firms with 15 people or more. It should be also for people who are just running sort of individual businesses or in the formal economy as well.
An article in the Post-Courier last week revealed that Prime Minister Peter O'Neill does not want to see ordinary Papua New Guineans face a double tax. Workers have been paying tax every fortnight, and their contributions to superannuation funds such as the No. 1 Super and NES Fund are also taxed. The article reported that the Prime Minister does not want to preempt any recommendations by the Tax Review Committee, but will wait for the review and recommendations from the committee before taking up a position. So while there lies the acceptance of the fact that tax cannot be avoided, the amount of it being taken from taxpayers is at most times argued upon, and changes are recommended. Given this, it is a daunting task for the government to deal with tax concerns raised. It aims to create a fair playing field for all.
And that's all we have for you tonight. If you would like to watch this episode or any of our previous episodes again, visit www.mtv.com.pg and go to our Business PNG page. Also, remember to send us your feedback via Facebook, Twitter, or email. Until next week, I'm Leah Jarari. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. Bye for now.